Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is the George W. Bush Presidency, Part 2. Only 2 vocabulary for the day. Read through those and then continue on. We start the video today with the term privatization. So if you check out the definition of privatization, it is the transfer of an entity from public to private ownership. Now, one of the things that we can in general relate privatization to is entitlements that right now or in the past have been given to the government. The government is responsible for paying those out. One of those entitlements is Social Security. The reason why privatization has come up as an idea to fund something, an entitlement like Social Security, is because Social Security and its existence in the future is a little bit under threat, whether or not it could be continued by the government. So here's an instance where George W. Bush wanted to privatize some entitlements, and Social Security was one of those. Other things that arise during the George W. Bush presidency, the Iraq War, which was mentioned in the previous video, that continues on. It will also continue on into the Obama administration. That war is still happening. It is a slow process. The United States is taking part in nation building, trying to instill a democratic government, but it does have a lack of understanding of the social, political, and religious dynamics in Iraq. There are 3 major groups in Iraq: Sunnis, Shias, and Kurds. And the lack of understanding, the United States having a lack of understanding in these areas and of these groups is problematic as they try to nation build. Hurricane Katrina was a hurricane that impacted the the Gulf area of the United States, specifically New Orleans. New Orleans is, I think, 6 feet, or at least at the time, maybe 6 feet under sea level. Now, New Orleans does have walls that prevent water from coming into the city, but Hurricane Katrina was devastating. It breached those walls, and there are a number of people that die. I think about 1,800 people. The the reconstruction of the city where it's needed cost over $100 million. Tens of thousands were evacuated, but there were still 100,000 that were unable to get out. And ultimately, the federal response was really lacking. George W. Bush does eventually say that the federal government could have done a better job, but that's recognition of what did happen and that there was a bad response by the federal government. As for the growth of growth of technology, again, we see in the 1990s, we saw a sharp increase in the use of personal technology, personal computers, and that growth only continues on into the 21st century. Here, smartphones, increased usage there. Smartphones becoming even more compact than what they used to be as far as a cellular device is concerned, introduction of social media, and then algorithms. Algorithms start to take hold in society and only have more importance and impact in the future. The George W. Bush presidency finishes on a bad note. He is done with his term in 2009, but in 2007 and 2008, we see during a time of what appears to be economic growth, we see a housing bubble burst. As you can see on the right on the graph, in that year 2000, leading up to the year 2000, but through 2007 for the most part, housing prices continue to increase and increase and increase. But if you compare 2000 to 2007 to what came before 2000, you'll notice the rate of incline is sharp. There is a huge increase in prices, and this has to do with things such as poor lending practices by banks, among other things. As for the housing market is considered one of the safest investments that there is. Not many economists, or anyone for that matter, saw this collapse in the housing market happen, but because it did happen, there's a huge financial collapse and a huge economic collapse that happens, and the United States and the world is impacted by it. So on this timeline, that 2000 to 2007 period, you see the increase of prices in homes. And then at the end of 2007, we start to see the problems that exist and start to be impacted by them. Then you start to see the housing prices dip. You start to see the reaction by the government, and one of the reactions is a bailout of the banks. Who is impacted by this come 2008? It's Barack Obama. He takes over what is a sagging economic situation for the United States. And then you see in that 2007 to 2016 period, you see some unemployment numbers and then the number of foreclosures on homes. It is pretty devastating. That's it for today, though. We will see you next time.